Hey everyone, welcome to Wildlife Inspired. I'm your host, Scott Keys. And yes, we've got another gimbal review. Today we're looking at the Sunwayfoto GH-04, right after this. I've got a nice gimbal for you today. This one is new by Sunwayfoto. I'm going to tell you real quickly how I came into this one. You guys know with all of my reviews, and first of all, thank you. I've gotten really great feedback on the review portion. I think a lot of people appreciate how straightforward, and I try to have a real good attention to detail, always looking for some flaws, really challenging products. So thank you for the feedback so far on these reviews. I'll continue to do them as long as the feedback is positive. So the GH-04 is interesting. I actually did a review of the GH-02. Price point was around $250. I did not love it. It was the stickiest of all the gimbals I reviewed in that price point. If you want a full list of those videos, you can check the card up at the top. Sunwayfoto actually saw that review and got back to me and said, hey, thank you for the critical feedback. We've actually improved the design. We've got some other gimbals out there. We would like you to take a look at it. So that showed some confidence in their product. They were willing to send me this. So they gifted this to me as part of this review. So I always disclose where I get my products from. Most of the time, these are rentals that I get from B&H, reviewed and sent back. So I don't feel that there's any bias toward the review. But I always want to put that out there because inherent in every review is going to be biased. It's very, very difficult to get rid of that. When things are gifted to you, typically it results in a more favorable review. Now, I try very, very hard. So I disclose that, and I try very hard not to let that influence me. In fact, when somebody comes and offers a product to me, most of the time I say no, but there are occasions where I do say yes. I always disclose it to you, but this is a typical response to the company. Happy to accept the product, but if I don't like it, I will not review it favorably. And you've got to be very careful before I get into the actual details of this one. Just a caveat about YouTube in general. A lot of the reviews that you see online are more advertisements than reviews. Products gifted, favorable review, check me the affiliate links down below, purchase the product. Doesn't make a lot of sense to negative review a product and then try to sell it to somebody. So just keep that in mind as you're doing it. Now, I use affiliate links. It helps offset the cost of this channel, and I appreciate when you use it. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and the commissions are very small, but overall they do help a little bit with the channel. So thank you for using them, but I am never going to give a favorable review just to drive sales to the products. I'm always going to give you the fairest review that I can every single time. If I tell you I like a product, I mean I like a product. Now, let's look at this one and I'll tell you if I like this product. First of all, the design, I've got the specs over here. Let me just read these off to you. It's 66 pounds load capacity. That's a pretty nice load capacity, especially given the weight ratio. So the weight's only 2.3 pounds, holds 66 pounds, 10 inches tall. It comes with a plate and it comes with a carrying case. So those are the essentials about this product. Now, I'm going to show you another product. This is actually the gimbal that I use, and I really like this product. I'll link both of these down below, in fact, because this is the one I use. This is the Katana Jr., very popular gimbal, much more expensive, and we'll talk about price in just a second. Now, do they look similar? Yep, they look very similar. This one's made in the US, this one's made in China. I'm going to show you a couple of things about these designs. There's virtually no significant difference in the two designs. This one has some Allen heads up here, so when you move this cradle up and down, these Allen head screws prevent it from coming off. This one's got actually a pretty nice little feature. It's got a push button here, so I'll try to show you there. If you see, I'm just pushing that little button right there, and it serves the same function as these Allen heads without the need to get an Allen wrench to remove it. So is that a nice touch? Yeah, but other than that, both included a bubble level, and both of them have a very similar design. Now, we're going to talk about differences in the structure and the quality, but the designs are very, very similar. I'm going to start by showing you this, and I've got some close-ups here. So I'm going to start by showing you just the system that it uses. And a lot of these gimbals use a tension-based system, which relies on friction. So as you thread, this knob would typically be on the side, and as you thread it down, it creates tension, which eventually locks it out. This design is different. These use clamps with bearings inside. And as you can see, the knob adjusts and it puts tension on the clamp, which puts tension on the bearings, and that's how it locks out. This design, similar, and I'll give you 3 companies that I know of that use this. Leofoto uses it. I'll put all of the prices up on the side right now, and you can compare what they look like and the prices. Leofoto uses it. Here's the Sunway. and then the Promedia Gear Katana Jr. The Katana, the Promedia Gear Katana also uses this, but it's a much bigger gimbal. Now, I like this design. This is actually my favorite design. It's one of the reasons I bought the Katana Jr. I think you get the most amount of friction control. And this gimbal is no different. So both on the vertical knob and the horizontal knob, you're getting a lot of adjustment. So you could see, I'm gonna lock this out and I'm gonna slowly release it. And there's a little bit of tension on here. And as I loosen it, that tension goes all the way off. And in between, there's some fine control. So as I dial it in slowly, you could see it's still friction, but it's still very, very smooth. I will tell you the horizontal panning on this is extremely smooth. Very similar, and I'm gonna take all the tension off and I'll let this spin for a little while. Very smooth, very, very similar to the Katana Jr. So on that horizontal panning, didn't really have any concerns about it. Very, very smooth. I'm gonna talk about the lockouts in a minute because I do think that is something that I noticed that was a little bit different. Now, let's look at the top, and when I do the same thing, again, very, very smooth. Interestingly enough, and again, I look for all the little details. I'm gonna show you what I found here. I'm gonna put a little bit of tension on here, just a hair. Remember, a lot of a fine adjustment. Okay, I think I've got it. So you see how it's swinging down here? Now I'm gonna try to, okay, you see it stop? Right there. Okay, so the overall machining on this, the tolerances, I don't think are quite as tight as the Katana Jr. So the Katana Jr., that would have just spun around. Right up at the top, it got a little bit sticky. Now at the bottom, I didn't notice it at all. In fact, I didn't notice it when my lens was on here. You're never gonna be spinning it around like that. What I wanted to demonstrate though, is in those little differences, why does one cost $400 and one cost $650? And it really comes down to the precision of the machining, in my opinion. Again, the Katana Jr. made in the US, this one made in China. And there are small differences. Let me show you one more. I like the bigger knobs on this, by the way. The Katana Jr. has a little bit smaller knobs. So I actually like the size of these knobs. When this top knob was loose there without the tension, it actually, I don't know if you could see that, but there's actually a little bit of play in there. So a little bit of wiggle. Functionally, does that matter? Not really. It really doesn't matter. But what I'm trying to display again is the differences in the quality. Why is one 400 and one 650? Now, does it make this an inferior product? Well, it's probably not as well machined, but when you look at the specs and the weight and the design, and most importantly, how does it feel? Can you feel these differences when you've got your camera on it? Well, let's find out. I'm gonna actually put my large lens on here. I've got it pre-balanced pretty well, so I think I'll be okay. I don't need to reset this up. I'm gonna take a pause. I'm gonna put my camera on here, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna take a look and see, in the field, would you be able to see these differences? Okay, so I put the lens on, fairly well balanced. I'm gonna put just a little bit of tension, and again, remember, biggest advantage is the tension control. I'm gonna put a little bit of tension on here so that when I point it in one direction, you'll see that it stays. Now, I showed you that that little bit of extra tension was at the top of this. When you're in this position down here, it's really, really smooth. And I showed you how smooth the horizontal was. So it feels really, really good. In fact, when I did this and I tried to remove the bias that I have, that I own the Katana Jr. and I paid more money for it. I set this up on my other tripod. I moved my setup back and forth between the two to see if in the field, functionally, could you really feel a difference? I will tell you, you really don't feel that much of a difference, if any. In fact, if I blindfolded somebody and said, hey, which gimbal do I have on here right now? I'm not sure you could tell the difference. So I showed you the difference in the quality of the machining, but out in the field, I don't think you're gonna notice those differences at all. Now, one of the things you may notice, when you go to lock this down, and I'll show you what that looks like. I'm gonna lock, so I've got no tension on here now on the horizontal. I'm gonna go ahead and start locking that out. Now notice it takes quite a few turns. A lot of these gimbals have just a quarter turn or a half turn lockout so you can lock it out quickly. These designs typically do not lock out that fast. It takes a little bit extra, maybe an extra turn to lock them out. So I've got that one pretty well locked out, but okay, I can still move it. I'm pushing pretty good, but I can still move it. Now let me continue. I can continue to ratchet this down, and you can actually continue to ratchet it for quite a while. And there it's locked out fully. Now watch how long it takes to undo that. So I have to loosen it, and it's still pretty locked out. loosen it again, and there I'm starting to get, and there's all the tension off. So the key is, if I need these really quick, firm, accurate lockouts, I shouldn't say accurate. You don't get lens creep. Lens creeps is when you tighten it down and the lens actually moves a little bit. You don't really get lens creep with this system, but what you do need is a few extra turns, and then once you think it's locked out, it almost takes another little half or a quarter turn, I should say. So another quarter turn from where you think it's locked out and it's not. And then let me show you up here, a little similar. I'll use this hand. So I'm going to turn it. As you can see, it's not locked out yet. I'm going to lock it out again. Not 100% locked out because I can still move it. It's pretty locked out. And then maybe another little eighth of a turn to get it really cinched down. So it just doesn't grab super quick. That could be the coarseness of the thread. So there's, threads that go in here. The finer the thread, the more fine adjustment you get, but it also means the tighter you have to go with that ratcheting down. So in terms of drawbacks, the machining probably not as good as that Katana Jr, which I'm using as the reference really for all of these similar designs, whether it's this or the Sunwayfoto. So the tolerance maybe not quite as precise. Again, made in China, not USA. Bottom line, it's $400. The Katana Jr is 60% more than this one. So it's a pretty significant price increase. Now, if you're looking at the Sunwayfoto, you're talking about $400 here. The Sunwayfoto, I believe, I'll put the price up here again, I think it's around $450 the last time I checked. So those are pretty close in terms of price. But if your budget is, if you've got a hard limit of $400, I would say this is actually a very good consideration, especially if you like this real fine control and you like the real smooth movements down here. Not a lot of reviews. As a newer product, I cannot speak to, haven't owned it for years, can't speak to the durability of this. But I didn't notice anything that concerned me with the machining. So the clamps seemed really tight. They held very well. Everything looked like it was made pretty well. Again, I think it's just those little bitty, those fine tolerances that separate this from the more expensive versions. So that's what I've got for you today. Sunwayfoto GH-04. Do you have any questions down in the comments? Have you used their products before? Before I let you go, I will tell you, I have used Sunwayfoto products before in the past, typically small clamps and things like that. I have personally never had any issue with them, but it's very limited experience. I've owned a few of their brands. They are an entry-level brand. So when you look at their products, typically you're looking at stuff that's toward the entry level. So their Arca Swiss plates and clamps typically are at that entry level price point. So you're looking at a product here that again, I think is good value. I'll put a couple other ones that I've recommended in the past between that $350 and $450 range that would come into play to compete against this. But I will tell you, I don't think any of them are quite as smooth, basically because of the design. This design just gives you these clamp systems with the sealed bearings here and here. They just give you a really smooth feel. So if you're looking for something in this price point, definitely consider the Sunwayfoto. I'll put affiliate links down at the bottom on this very unbiased review. I'll also put a link for my favorite gimbal, the Katana Jr, down in the bottom. So check both of those products out if you're interested. And as always, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for your support. Down in the comments, let me know if you want me to continue to do these videos. And as always, let's continue to find inspiration in wildlife together.